I tried Japanese minimalism for 30 days. This is what changed. What if living with less could actually give you more peace, energy, and happiness than you ever thought possible? We tried it for 30 days, and here's what happened. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. So we did something that honestly scared us a little bit. We decided to try Japanese minimalism for a full 30 days. Not just the surface level stuff like decluttering and organizing, but really diving deep into the philosophy and way of thinking that comes from traditional Japanese culture. Going into this challenge, we were pretty skeptical. We'd tried minimalism before, but it always felt like we were just depriving ourselves or trying to live in some kind of sterile, empty space. But Japanese minimalism is completely different. It's not about having as little as possible, it's about being incredibly intentional with what you choose to keep and how you choose to live. We documented everything that happened during these 30 days, and honestly, some of the changes surprised us so much that we're still processing them weeks later. From how we sleep, to how we make decisions, to how we feel about our relationships, this experiment affected parts of our lives we never expected. So grab a cup of tea and settle in, because we're about to share the real, unfiltered truth about what happened when we embraced Japanese minimalism for a full month. Week 1. The physical transformation. The first week was all about the physical changes, and let us tell you, it was more intense than we expected. We started by going through every single room in our home and applying the Japanese principle of only keeping things that either serve a clear purpose or bring genuine joy. This wasn't just Marie Kondo's version of sparking joy. This was about really understanding why we owned each item and whether it supported the life we actually wanted to be living. The process was emotionally exhausting. We found ourselves holding onto things for reasons we'd never really examined before. That expensive blender we'd used twice, but kept because we felt guilty about the money we'd spent. Those books we'd never read, but kept because we thought they made us look smart. Those clothes that didn't fit properly, but we held on to hoping we'd lose weight, or gain confidence, or somehow become different people. By the end of week 1, we'd removed about 60% of our belongings from our living space. But here's the thing that shocked us. Our home didn't feel empty or sad. It felt lighter and more spacious, like we could finally breathe properly in our own space. Colors seemed brighter, natural light flowed better, and we found ourselves actually noticing and appreciating the things we'd chosen to keep. The most unexpected change was how much easier our daily routines became. Getting dressed took half the time because we weren't sorting through clothes we never wore. Making dinner was more enjoyable because we could easily find the tools we needed. Even cleaning became almost meditative because everything had a proper place and there wasn't clutter everywhere competing for our attention. Week 2. Mental and emotional shifts. As we moved into the second week, the mental and emotional shifts started kicking in, and this is where things got really interesting. With less visual clutter around us, we noticed our minds felt clearer and less scattered. Decision-making became easier because we weren't constantly overwhelmed by too many options or distractions. But the deeper emotional work was more challenging. Japanese minimalism isn't just about getting rid of stuff, it's about examining your relationship with your possessions and what they represent. We found ourselves processing feelings we'd been avoiding for years. That box of mementos from a failed relationship we'd been keeping in the closet. Those craft supplies from hobbies we'd abandoned. Those expensive gadgets we'd bought thinking they'd solve problems they never actually solved. The Japanese practice of thanking items before letting them go became incredibly healing for us. Instead of feeling guilty about money we'd wasted or gifts we didn't use, we started feeling grateful for what those items had taught us. That unused guitar taught us that we're more interested in listening to music than making it. Those fancy cooking gadgets taught us that we prefer simple, straightforward meal preparation. By week 2, we noticed we were sleeping better and feeling less anxious during the day. Research from UCLA shows that people living in cluttered environments have higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. So this made sense, but we hadn't expected the emotional relief that came from living in a space that truly reflected our current values and interests instead of past versions of ourselves or future selves we weren't sure we'd actually ever become. Week 3. Relationship and social changes. Week 3 brought some unexpected changes in our relationships and social interactions that honestly caught us off guard. When your home becomes this calm, intentional space, you start noticing how different it feels when you're in chaotic or cluttered environments. We found ourselves more sensitive to visual overwhelm and noise, but also more appreciative of beauty and simplicity wherever we encountered it. Our relationships started shifting too. We became more selective about social commitments, applying the same principles we'd used with our belongings to our time and energy. Just like we'd learned to only keep items that served a purpose or brought joy, we started being more mindful about activities and obligations that drained our energy without adding real value to our lives. This wasn't about becoming antisocial or selfish. It was about being more present and intentional with the people and activities we chose to engage with. When we did spend time with friends or family, we were more focused and engaged because we weren't mentally distracted by all the clutter and chaos we'd left behind at home. We also noticed that people responded differently to our space. Friends who came over seemed to relax more quickly and stay longer. Conversations felt deeper and more meaningful. There was something about the calm, uncluttered environment that seemed to invite more authentic connection and communication. The most surprising social change was how much more generous we became. When you're not constantly acquiring and managing stuff, you have more mental and emotional bandwidth to focus on relationships and experiences. We found ourselves more willing to help friends, more patient with family members, and more interested in creating meaningful memories than in accumulating more possessions. Week 4, long-term lifestyle integration. By the 4th week, we were starting to understand that Japanese minimalism isn't really a 30-day challenge. It's a completely different way of approaching life. The physical decluttering we'd done in week 1 was just the beginning. The real transformation was happening in how we made decisions, how we spent our time, and how we thought about what we needed to be happy and fulfilled. We found ourselves applying minimalist principles to areas of our life beyond just our possessions. We simplified our wardrobes down to pieces we genuinely loved wearing. We reduced our streaming subscriptions to services we actually used regularly. We even started being more selective about the information we consumed, unfollowing social media accounts that made us feel anxious or inadequate. The Japanese concept of ikigai, finding your reason to be, started making more sense to us. When you remove all the excess noise and distractions from your life, it becomes much easier to identify what actually matters to you and what brings you genuine satisfaction. We started making choices based on our values rather than external expectations or social pressure. One of the most profound changes was how we started thinking about future purchases. The question shifted from, "Do I want this?" to, "Will this actively support the life I'm trying to create?" This made us much more intentional consumers and helped us avoid the cycle of buying things impulsively and then feeling guilty about them later. The maintenance aspect became almost enjoyable too. When you have fewer possessions and everything has a proper place, keeping your space organized becomes this meditative daily practice rather than an overwhelming chore. We started looking forward to our evening routine of tidying up because it felt like a way of showing gratitude for our space and preparing mindfully for the next day. The unexpected long-term benefits. As we wrapped up our 30-day experiment, we realized that some of the most significant changes weren't things we could have predicted or even noticed in the moment. Our sleep quality had improved dramatically. We were falling asleep faster and waking up more refreshed. Our focus and productivity had increased because we weren't constantly distracted by visual clutter or the mental burden of managing too much stuff. But perhaps the most surprising benefit was how much more creative and inspired we felt. When your environment is calm and uncluttered, your mind has space to wander and explore ideas. We found ourselves reading more, having deeper conversations, and even trying new hobbies because we weren't spending all our free time managing, organizing, or shopping for stuff. The financial benefits were significant too. When you become really intentional about purchases and stop buying things impulsively, you save a lot of money without feeling deprived. We redirected the money we would have spent on random stuff toward experiences and activities that actually brought us lasting satisfaction. So what changed after 30 days of Japanese minimalism? Pretty much everything.
but in the most gentle, natural way possible. We didn't feel like we were following strict rules or depriving ourselves of anything important. Instead, we felt like we were finally living in alignment with what actually mattered to us. The physical decluttering was just the beginning. The real transformation happened in how we made decisions, how we spent our time, and how we thought about what we needed to be happy and fulfilled. We became more intentional, more present, and more grateful for what we had, rather than constantly wanting more or different. If you're curious about trying this yourself, we'd encourage you to start small and be patient with the process. This isn't about achieving some perfect minimalist aesthetic. It's about creating a life that feels authentic and peaceful to you. Thanks for watching. Have you tried minimalism in any form? Let us know your experiences in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want more content about intentional living.